Hey everybody. Not this shit again. Oops. Curse. I'll keep it like that for now. Hey, Isaiah Plays. What's happening? Oh, great. Glad you're here. I teach people how to maintain their computer and repair their computer. If you got any questions, just let me know. I'm doing pretty good. Hey, where are you located? Where are you at? Are you in the USA? Just curious. Oh, Texas, cool. Oh, that's good, yeah. I'm doing okay. I'm here in Florida. Yeah, I guess you guys got warm weather in there too. Yeah, I just wanted to go live. I figured to spend some time on here. Oh, wow. Yeah, we've had like 78 degrees or 80 degrees. It was kind of cool for a while, and then it just started getting warm again. Today the sun's out. Hey, Alex. I took your advice. Yeah, I know you got to drive, Alex, so that way you can get some miles. Hey, TaylorMade. Okay, great to see you. I could rated you. I don't know what that means. I could rated you. Something like that. Alex, I don't know what that means. TaylorMade, how you doing? I hit that like button. Oh, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Yeah, what I wanted to go into is, computer maintenance, because that's a big topic that everybody, anybody that has a computer, or even a tablet or a laptop, they could benefit. I could put over my live. Oh, I see. You could have brought over your live feed rate. Oh, gotcha. Well, people will start coming in. Trust me. I had a live stream earlier, and there was like 32 people in here. So they'll pick it up, I'm sure. But like I was saying, if you have a laptop computer, if you use a laptop computer to get on the internet, if you use a desktop, a tablet even, you can still do maintenance on a tablet, If you use a tablet and your computer gets all, loaded up with like temp files and all the cache files that you get when you're on the internet. See, what happens is on a laptop, desktop, and a tablet, even a cell phone, you get a bunch of temporary files on there because the longer you're on the internet, surfing the internet and things like that. Let's say you're going to stores and you're buying things online. I'm doing pretty good, Taylor. That's great. Hey, Faith. Great to see you again. See, what happens when you're searching all these different websites on the internet, Let's say you buy stuff on Amazon, or you go, hey, Mama Len, how's it going? Let's say you're buying stuff, okay, and you're searching, and you're going from different website to different website. What happens is these companies, they put a file on your computer. It's called a cookie file. And what that does is it lets them know your buying habits, one thing. It tells them what you're interested in buying and what your interests are. Also, it helps them get you to their site quick the next time you go into their website. So, when you click on their website again, you're going to get there faster because you have these cookie files on there. Yeah, and that's the thing. Some people like to have a certain amount because it gets them to the website faster. But as a computer technician and, been around a lot of computers for many years, what you need to do is, and I tell people all the time, you need to remove these files on a regular basis. And not only will nobody be able to see what you're doing as far as your browsing, history. Um, what another thing that occurs is it actually speeds up your browser. You see, because your browser doesn't have a lot of things in there. It will free up your browser. So in other words, when you're on Google Chrome, let's say, and you go to different websites. I'm going by Google Chrome because, Google is, one of the most popular browsers, and it's probably the most stable browser for Windows. And, Windows 10 has that new Edge browser, which is actually an updated version of Internet Explorer, and that's a good browser too. But I think you're safer if you're using Google Chrome. And another thing about that is, what you do is you go in there, and I'll tell you how to do it because if you watch some of my videos, I talk in my videos a lot about how to clean your browsing history and also to check your settings and make sure your default browser, in other words, when you click on your browser, you want it to, it's a Google browser and you want it to go to Google. You don't want it to redirect. See, sometimes things get redirected. If you have a lot of junk in there. I have to run, but I want to stop by, hit the like. Oh, thank you, Colorado. I appreciate that. So in other words, what hackers do is they put a redirect, or companies will try to redirect your browser to where they want you to go, to certain ads and things like that, to let you go and you may buy something on their site. Companies will try to redirect your browser. So you have to go into your settings on Google Chrome and make sure your default browser is set to Google Chrome. So it has to be set to Google Chrome or Bing or MSN. You want it to be a well-known site, a well-known browsing. That way, none of these third-party companies can, hijack it and send you somewhere else, you see, because that happens on a lot of browsers. Now, if you ever notice that you have toolbars that you didn't see on your computer before, a couple toolbars at the top, and that's what happens is you may be getting redirected somewhere else. And what happens is they put a toolbar on there and it looks totally different than what you had before. So you have to be careful about that. Because that's spyware, it's spyware and then they put malware on there. What malware is companies that are selling, they're looking for you because they want to advertise to you. So they put these files on there, and it's very easy to get rid of all this history stuff on your browser. And I'll tell you exactly how to do that. Anybody can do that. Only takes about a minute. Now, what you do is you open up your Chrome browser, and if you look on the upper right-hand corner of it, you'll see three dots. It'll be straight up and down. all the way on right near where you close your browsing window out, and you'll see three dots there. And what you do is you click on those dots, and you'll see history in the menu, and you hover your mouse over to the history, and then you move it to the left and you click on history. That's how you go to that area where all those temporary files will be, all the history entries that companies put on your computer when you're surfing the internet. So you want to be aware of that. What you want to do is you want to go in there, and you may have 10, you might have 50, you might have 100. I mean, I've seen computers where people have thousands of them on there. And that's bad because what you think that you're in charge of your computer, but these companies are actually in charge of it if you don't clear out your history, you see? Because by default, hi there, Real Brooklyn, good to see you again. By default, Microsoft Windows and Windows operating system is set to a certain amount of days to keep your history online, you see? And if you're set to keep your history online to like 14 days, you're going to accumulate a lot of stuff. You know, you're going to accumulate a lot of stuff. And it goes back to like 1995, and I could tell you from my own experience, I don't want to go into too long of a detailed story, but I will say that when I first bought my first computer, I went to the store, and I bought the computer. And it was a compact desktop. Back then, it had these big white towers, compact. Paid for it, left, went home. I had no idea how to hook it up. I knew nothing about computers. I didn't know how to use a computer. But even today, when you buy a new computer, you get something on there that's called bloatware, okay? Bloatware. And bloatware is kind of another avenue, like history, like what we're talking about, where companies put a lot of extra stuff on there. Let's say you buy an HP computer, for example, okay? You'll have all this extra HP stuff on there on your hard drive. Make sure you only buy HP ink. Make sure if you want to buy the ink, you'll get pop-up messages, when to reorder and how to order and blah, 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 and all this extra stuff. Well, that's what happens when you buy a new computer. Companies are affiliated with Microsoft, and, the company that all these different companies are getting together, and then they put different stuff on there, like if you ever notice when you buy a new computer, you get like a trial of McAfee antivirus. Usually it'll run 30 or 60 days for free. Then you have the option of paying for it. Okay. Now, Norton, the company that owns Norton, is called Symantec, and it's the same thing with them. You have the option of, they'll give you like a 90-day trial, and then you have the option if you want to buy the antivirus after a certain amount of time. You could pay money and buy it right there over the internet. So, that is called bloatware, So, I want to get into some of this because it does relate right to what I'm talking about, your browsing history, because that's another way businesses get into your computer tracking, and they want to, know your buying habits. I mean, if I'm eBay, right? I want to know people's buying habits so I know what to put in front of them. That's why when you go to your email, a lot of times you'll get email and you're like from let's say you one time went to a golf club site. Let's for an example, and you looking at some golf clubs. Then you notice a couple of days later, hey, why am I getting all these? I'm getting 3 or 4 emails on golf clubs. I never asked for them, But you notice, what we call spam and junk mail is really what the companies are targeting people by the way they surf on the internet. You see what I mean? it's kind of like the post office, you know. I worked for the post office years ago, and if anybody's familiar with the post office, you get a lot of mail in your mailbox. Maybe 20% of it is bills and things that you need, but most of the other stuff we call junk mail, right? And it's junk mail. But when I worked at the post office, an interesting thing happened. They told me that all that junk mail is companies that pay the post office to advertise their businesses. So all those advertisements and coupons, that the post office sends is from companies that are paying the post office, to mail it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But here's the catch. About 75% of the post office income is coming from those what we call junk mail. So the majority of what the mailman brings to you is paying for all the people that work at the post office, the salaries and things like that. It's over 60%, I guarantee you that. So that's a very important thing, because these advertisers, they want to get out to people. So, they want to get their flyer at your door. So, they're paying a lot of money for that. Well, the same thing happens on your computer. You're going back to the history, okay? Going into your email, instant messages. Companies are always bombarding us with buying this, buy that, we'll give you a discount. All these advertisements are getting on your computer. And like I said, eventually they're going to be slow. They will slow it down. They're keeping a track of your spending, what you do, what you buy, what kind of things you like. And it even goes farther than that. It even relates to what you decide what you want on your browser. When they ask you, when you first open your computer, go to Chrome, okay? You get a pop-up that says, hey, do you like to see sports, news, or do you want to know the latest trends? I mean, you have options on your browser for them to show you the things that you're very interested in and things that you want to see. If you're into the stock market, there's an option. Yeah, show me the stock market when I open my browser. And that's another way to get you, because when you enable all these things, basically what you're doing is you're giving them permission to put all these ads out in front of you. We're bombarded with ads, obviously, since you're, a little kid. TV ads, radio ads. Ads everywhere. And the reason why you continually see them over and over is because they work. People see them and people are buying stuff, and the companies want to know exactly, what you're, what kind of things you're interested in. So they track you, they track you in your computer. And when you go to a store and you fill out a thing, a flyer or something, or any way, it comes back to you a certain way. But my main concern is the computer and the internet, because that's what I do. And I got to tell you, like I was saying before, not only is your computer going to run better when you get rid of all this stuff, it's going to be safer, because you don't have all this stuff in there, and you don't have people prying in, asking you, trying to monitor everywhere you go and everything else. So, you're cutting down on that too. So getting back to the history of the browser, you go up to the top right-hand corner, those three dots that we talked about. You're going to go to history, which is a couple down. Go into history. And when you click on that, it's going to show you something that's going to say browsing data. Okay? Clear my browsing data. And what is browsing data? Just what we talked about. Browsing data is everywhere you're going on the internet, they want companies are following you, and they put those cookies on there so they know what you're doing. So you want to clear that browsing data. So you're going to highlight, you're going to hold your control key down on your keyboard, control and then A at the same time. When you hold those two keys down, you're going to highlight about 100 of those, or 50 or 100 of those, and then you just hit the delete key on your keyboard, and then you just hit your mouse, and it gets rid of a bunch of them. But generally, if you've never done it before, you're going to have a whole lot of them. So you're going to have to do that several times until they're all gone. On my computer this morning, for an example, in my email, I had about maybe 400 of them. So I had to get rid of all these spam emails. Hey there, Goblin, welcome. Good to see you. And everybody, make sure you show each other love. If you don't have each other, check each other's channels out, and I always get a lot of good people in my live streams. So check each other's channel out, like, comment. And if you see a video you really like, share it, social media or wherever. But yeah, there's a lot of good content in a lot of these channels that I've been checking out. But anyhow, you want to get rid of all that browsing history. And there's also a drop down in there, you'll notice if you pay attention. If you look a little up higher, there's a little drop down menu. Click on that drop down menu, and it's going to say 1 week, 3 months, or all of them. Make sure that's set on all of them, because you want to get rid of all your browsing data, okay? Browsing history, yeah, it's going to slow down your computer. It does that. The more you get, it eventually will slow it down. So you want to delete your browsing history. Very important. And another thing what you want to do is you want to go to the control panel and go to where it says Internet Options, and make sure your history is not set on like 14. Only keep your browsing history online for a couple of days. You know what I mean? Because remember, the more browsing history, the longer it stays online, the more you're going to accumulate. Hey, Brooklyn, there. You're from my hometown, New York. That's where I'm from. Actually, I used to work in Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn at one time. So I know New York. I'm born and raised in New York. So, there's other areas where you're going to want to be concerned about internet safety. One is your browsing history. Sure, you got to do that. I'm a local IT, and you can set up to erase caches on it. Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you go to your internet options, you can set that up to, when you close your browser, to get rid of, the stuff when you exit the browser. But personally, I always check, because I've seen many times where some of these things don't get rid of everything, or if you have a real lot of them, they won't, you'll have to do a lot of this stuff manually. Hey, Harold, how's it going? And, back in the Windows 7 days, yeah, I'm getting into that now, Drone. I'm doing pretty good. back in the Windows 7 days, you can, well, let me talk about something else since you brought that up, the temps and stuff. Now, if you're on a Windows 10 computer, there's a couple different areas where you're going to get, it's called the cache, your cache files, CASHE. Brooklyn, you're probably familiar with that. So what you do is there's an area that your temp files get accumulated. Then there's another area where it's another temp file area. That's where other files get accumulated. Sometimes in the recent folder, you'll get accumulated files in there. And then there's a prefetch file where you need to go in and you need to remove these files and stuff. And basically how you do it on Windows 10 is you just right click on the start button, in the lower left, your Windows start button. Then you left click run. Then when run opens up, you type in temp, small letters, TEMP. Not everybody's a advanced computer user, so when I say stuff, I'm basically speaking mostly to people that don't know very much, or they may know how to surf the internet and do everything, but these tools that they're not familiar with, I like to explain that. So what you do is you're going to right click on the start button, left click where it says run, and in that run box, you're going to type in temp, TEMP, lower letters, and then you're going to hit, OK. You might get another screen that says continue. If you do, hit continue. It's just a precaution screen that says, do you want to continue to go into your this folder? Sometimes it's, it's just not easy access. So you just click continue. And then when it goes past continue, you'll see all these different folders, and you'll do the same thing. You'll hold Control A, it will highlight a lot of them, and then you hit the delete. You keep doing that until you get rid of most of them. You don't have to get rid of all of them. Sometimes all of them don't go away. That's why I say if you get rid of most of them, that's great. You might have to do it a few times if you haven't done it before. So, that's the thing. And yeah, I use Windows 7 too. I have Windows 7, I have Windows 10. Hey, Ice Cold Water. Hey, Tropical, great to see you. So, yeah, drones, most of the people that I work on computers for many years, and I know that, people that call me and I look at their computer, most of the people really don't even know the basics. So I have to show them a lot of stuff. I usually show them a little at a time because, I don't want them to. I notice if you tell people more than 2 or 3 things, they usually forget. So, but, a lot of this stuff is basic maintenance, and that's what I always stress. It's funny because 90% of all computer problems, Windows-based problems, and even Macs, if you have a Mac, this goes for Mac too. I would say around 90% of all problems with your computer is going to be software issues. Parts will go bad now and then, but most of the problems with a computer is going to be software. Do you use Microsoft Edge? No, I use Chrome. I like Chrome, and that's what I use. But it's okay if you use Edge. I mean, that's personal preference, And a lot of if you're familiar with computers or you're an IT person or advanced user, then you know that different viruses and spyware, a lot of them are made to attack these different areas because there's vulnerabilities there. Like in your browser, and things like that. So you want to go in, like we just did with the temp, right click and then left click, you know, left click the run box, and then you're going to type in something else now. You're going to type in what's called prefetch, and it's spelled prefetch. You type in that, hit that. You're going to go to another area, and there's going to be all your prefetch folders. These are all temporary files. They're safe to remove. You can remove all these files off your computer, and it won't harm anything. So what you do is Control A on your keyboard again, hit delete, remove as many as you can, close that out, go back, right click on, again, that's for the third time, right click on the Windows icon, lower left, click run, backspace that. And this time you're going to type in the percentage sign, and then temp, and then the percentage sign, at the top of your keyboard. And then you're going to do the same thing like you did before. You're just going to hit OK. You're going to go to another folders where you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff. It's going to be more stuff. And you do the same thing. Control A key, hold them both together, hit delete, and get rid of them. And that cleans out all your cache files, because Windows accumulates a lot of files. And they're all temporary files. They're all safe to get rid of. So you can get rid of them. And yeah, there are programs that do this. And I recommend like CCleaner, which cleans your registry out. I recommend that. But there's nothing like going in yourself and doing it. There's nothing like that, because then you know it's done. So that's what I do. I'll use CCleaner for cleaning my registry out and removing some stuff that it finds. But I like to do all the cache stuff manually. And it's kind of funny because these I want to talk a little about antivirus programs, because a lot of people get a misconception about antivirus programs. You got a lot of choices. It's like you go to the store and you want to buy coffee. There's like 20 different kinds, and it's like that with antiviruses too. But most antiviruses are pretty much the same, unless you have a special paid version where you have a couple extra features. But what people don't really understand is you can have the best antivirus or any antivirus, but if you don't have the definition files, then you're going to, it's just like not having any. I told him I bought that T199 now. Yeah, CCleaner's great. I've been using that for years. So what I'm trying to say is, when you have an antivirus that's working, whether it be a free version or a paid version, and I personally recommend the free versions. I use Avast antivirus. It's a free version. There is paid ones and there's trials, but I use the free version. And you have to do the update before you run it. Make sure it's fully updated. And what you're getting is you're getting the definition files. Those are the files that people report all these problems with their computer, viruses and spyware and all these different threats. And then they come out with these patches, which are your updates. And then you're going to download that, and then you're going to run it, and the antivirus is going to scan for these things. So you definitely got to have those files if you're running it. If you're going to have be on the internet, you want to have an antivirus, and you want to have the definition files, because that's what will protect you from most viruses. I would say maybe 75% of the viruses that are out there, because there are some that antivirus. I mean, antivirus could miss something. That's why I always say to have a couple different things. I use the Malwarebytes. I also use CCleaner. Super Anti Spyware is another good program, and there's a free version for that. I've cleaned many of my customers' computers with Super Anti-Spyware Remover, and that program does a really good job. It goes into all your system files and everything, and it cleans a lot of stuff out. So make sure you at least have an antivirus, and if you can get CCleaner, great. Download that. Hey, Mrs. Naturally, how's it going? Great to see you. So, that's what I was talking about as far as the cache stuff goes. Get rid of all those files. Your history, keep on top of that with your browser. And also in your browser, there's another option. Click You can go back in your browser, click those three buttons if you're on Chrome, and go to settings and make sure it's set to Google Chrome is your default browser, and make sure there's nothing else in there. If there is, backspace it and type in www.googlechrome. You can do that in your internet options also in Windows in the control panel. That way you want to make sure that when you click on your Chrome or your Edge, that it's going to where it's supposed to be, and not some random site that is going to take it to. That's very important. You don't want any anything connected to those inside your browser settings, because stuff will get on there if you don't keep up with that, and then you'll have end up with 2 or 3 toolbars on the top of your screen, and you'll wonder what happened to those. How did that get on there? And then you'll have to go and remove those toolbars. So that's just a little tip, to help you do some maintenance, and it'll not only for safety, it will definitely speed up your computer a little bit too. You'll notice a difference. Anytime that I go to somebody, a client, and I run a CCleaner, because I ask them, do you do maintenance, regular maintenance? Well, most people say, no, not really. I don't know how, or I'm just too busy. I don't have the time. And I run that CCleaner, and usually the CCleaner will clean up, a lot of stuff. And, it can be the difference. Running a small utility can be the difference in whether your computer is freezing up or not. Hey there, how you doing? Welcome to the live stream. So, that's some really good information, because, like I said, most of computer problems are hardware, software, not hardware. Every now and then a power supply will go out on your desktop, or a stick of RAM will go bad in your computer, and you'll need to change that. And video cards can burn out or overheat. But most of the computer issues is software related. So cleaning and maintaining your computer, just like if it was a car and you go in for a tune-up, these are things that you should do on a regular basis, because little problems can, turn into big ones. And the more you have all this temporary stuff on there, and if you got infections on there, you need to try to stay on top of that. And it's not a whole lot of work, just running a few programs, cleaning out your cache areas, cleaning out your history, running the Malwarebytes program, running a CCleaner. You can even run the CCleaner has a registry cleaner feature, which I love. You run that, and I really speed up a lot of people's computers just by, just by doing that, because people have a lot of registry issues, and that's because when you uninstall programs or you have problems with programs, these files get stuck in what's called the registry, and every Windows operating system has a registry. Basically, when you're in the control panel, you're in the registry, you just can't make the immediate changes like you can do in the registry. And if you don't know what you're doing, you don't want to mess around with it, That's why they have registry programs. And the only one that I personally recommend is Seat Cleaner, and that's a free program. You just click Registry Cleaner, and you follow the prompts, and you clean the registry. And it makes a big difference. Now, those files will accumulate and they'll mess up other files if you don't clean your registry every now and then. So that's why I stress that people get Seat Cleaner and learn how to use it. If you're not sure, watch some of my videos. I have some tutorials on using all these programs in my videos. Using antivirus, using Malwarebytes, Seat Cleaner, and stuff like that. And another thing, if you're not when you buy, going back to buying a new computer, whenever you get a new computer, you nowadays you'll have a trial version of like Microsoft Office, and you'll get like all these programs to check out, and that'll run out, and you'll have to pay a couple $100 usually for the program. Now, if you're not necessarily need the latest version of Office, you can get some free software online like Open Office, and that's a free like a spreadsheet. It works like Word and that kind of thing. So you don't necessarily have to buy the Microsoft Office after the trial's over. If you don't use those programs that much, you can get Open Office. You can get Apache, which is Open Office also. You just do a search for Open Office, and you'll see you have a couple other choices there. Personally, I don't use those programs that much, but I have an older version of Office, and that's good enough for me. I use that once in a while, very rarely. But if you need to get use the Office, student versions are a little bit cheaper than professional versions. So you might want to consider getting a student version if you're going to pay for it. If you have a kid in your house that's a student, you probably can get a discount. So I would look into that because it's pretty expensive. It can be like $300 or $400 to purchase that whole Office Suite program. Whenever I tell people about like these free programs, a lot of people think that, well, if it's free, it can't be that good. And I tell you, I've used Norton, I've used McAfee. I know all the versions, all the different programs over the years that they came out with, and I could tell you that free programs are most of the time that I've found generally are better than the paid ones, especially with the antiviruses and the spyware removers. That's what I've realized, because I know people who have paid for some of them. I'd say around 10, 15 years ago, Norton started coming out with nuts and bolts with all like 10 or 15 different programs. I mean, if you want to do this program, will do everything for your computer. You know what I mean? Click on this, click on that. I'll back it up, save it, we'll clone your hard drive and do everything. And a lot of times those programs actually work against you because they may give you some extra added features, but they will eventually slow your computer down and use up a lot of your Windows resources. So that's why I don't recommend McAfee. I don't recommend Norton. I don't recommend any of those paid programs. I use the free ones. I've never had any problems. I've never had any customers having any complaints about free antiviruses. AVG was and still is a very popular free antivirus, and Avast is very good. And some people want to spend money on antivirus. That's entirely up to you. But in my over 20-something years experience, I could tell you Usually you're wasting your money. You can buy a $75 antivirus at the store, and I can install a free antivirus, and it'll be just as good as the one you have. Um, and really, that's the facts. And I've even ran tests with antiviruses. I put Norton up against McAfee and McAfee up against AVG before and Avast, and Norton missed some of the viruses that AVG and Avast detected. So just because you're paying for a big name, a big company, that doesn't necessarily mean you're getting a good product. And and it's funny because it used to be when you got a computer, and it still applies today. When you buy a computer, a lot of these companies are hooked up with McAfee, and they're hooked up with Symantec, which is really Norton. So you'll get the computer with the free trial version of these antiviruses. And I remember Norton actually made their antivirus where it was very hard to uninstall if you didn't want it. They had to come out with a program that you have to run just to get it off your computer. And that was so much of a hassle for technicians because, we try to get these antiviruses off there, these paid versions, and they just wouldn't go away. And eventually they came out with tools to make them, let us install them. And now, thank God, that they install easier. You don't need tools or anything. It just goes to show you that, a lot of this stuff is lumped together with a computer when you buy it. And a lot of people just don't know any better. And they have a lot of things on their hard drive that they don't need. And it needs to come off of there because those things will give you problems. And antivirus is one of the top ones that will give you problems. So if you have two of them on your computer, you'll definitely have problems. And I always tell people, when you have an antivirus, you're going to put an antivirus on your computer, whether it's free or paid, make sure you take the one that you have off first. Uninstall it first. Okay? If you have a trial version, go in and uninstall it. You just have to type in control panel in the search bar, go into add remove programs, go down the list, look for your antivirus, highlight it, go to the top, hit uninstall, make sure it's uninstalled before you're going to install another one. That's important. And also, while you're in there, look for toolbars that could be installed on your computer that you don't even know about, and spyware, and all these different nonsense bloatware that companies put on your computer. And I'd say most of the stuff needs to come off. If you're not sure what you're doing or sure what it is, ask somebody or search for it on Google. Look it up on Google. If it says anything to do with the driver, display driver, video driver, sound driver, leave it alone. That's important. You need that software to run your sound, your video, and things like that. So don't mess with it. If you're not sure what it is, don't remove it. You can leave it or look it up or ask somebody that's more knowledgeable, like a shop, or if you have a friend that can help you out, because you don't want to remove stuff that you're not sure of. But there's plenty of stuff on there, like that companies put on there that really needs to get off. And to have a hard drive with just the programs you use and good programs, it will be healthier and it will run smoother and it will give you less problems. And another way to identify if you have a lot of junk on there is what I tell people to do is just turn your computer on, power it on, whether it be a laptop or a desktop. It could even be a tablet. Okay? You just power it on. You don't touch your keyboard and you don't touch your mouse, right? And that green light okay, that indicator, hard drive indicator light, I would say give it about a minute or two, because what happens is when you start your computer up, your computer goes through what's called post, and that means power on self test. The hard drive is in your computer. In other words, your hardware is looking for the software, and all this stuff is taking place in the background. So you got to give it a few minutes, and when you know everything is stopped, you can look on your screen. There's nothing on there except for your Microsoft or desktop. Okay, now you know everything's loaded, and then you just look at that green button. Now, if that green button stays steady most of the time, then I would say you're okay. But if that green button continually flashes without you touching the mouse or the keyboard, then you have issues. You have issues with your hard drive, and you have issues with programs or pop-ups or any other thing that's running in the background, that's starting when your computer starts. Programs that are running could be Skype, could be FaceTime, could be Yahoo Messenger, could be anything. That's when you know you have problems. When after a couple of minutes that green light is not steady and it continually flashes. It could mean early signs of hardware failure from your hard drive. But most of the time, it means that you have programs on there that need to be dealt with. In other words, either removed, taken off startup. Those are two options. Or you need maintenance done. And I can tell you, if you don't do maintenance on your computer, you need maintenance done, because, like we were talking about before, all the temporary stuff gets on your computer. And some people say, hey, I kind of like that. I want to be able to get to eBay real quick, or I want to be able to go to Amazon without, when I click it, it goes real fast there. Hey, that's fine. And those things will work pretty good, but you're going to be accumulating a lot more stuff. And over time, it will actually slow your computer down, and in a lot of cases, freeze it up. Because I've seen a lot of customers where I go to their home or office, you turn the computer on, it's all frozen up. It's all freezing. Do I need to buy a new computer? It's all frozen. When that happens, what is the problem? You have software problems. Okay, your software is not working right. If you didn't do maintenance, never did maintenance, this is the result of not doing maintenance, not cleaning it. If I drive my car 100,000 miles without changing the oil, I'm just taking a chance. Using your computer that needs maintenance, in my opinion, is kind of like driving your car with the emergency brake on. You have a lot of potential. You have more potential in that computer, but you're holding it back. Okay, you're holding it back. And by having that emergency brake on and related to a computer is all the maintenance that it needs, you're holding it back. Okay. Now, we're all limited to the speed of our internet connection as far as, getting online. If you have fast internet, you're going to have a good internet speed. And memory has a lot to do with that too. If you have a lot of memory in your computer, or if you have a little, not too much, less than 4 gigs of memory, your computer's not going to run that fast. So you're kind of limited by a few of these things. But most of all, things that you can control and do easy is you can upgrade your computer memory, make it faster, put more memory in it. You can always pay a little bit more for faster internet. You might be paying for slow internet. You have to contact your internet provider and see what you're paying for. You may just be paying for a basic internet when for a few dollars more, you might be able to get more internet, more bandwidth. So you have to talk to your internet provider about that. But you can do something with your computer, and you can do the maintenance yourself. And just those steps we talked about earlier, are pretty easy for you to do. You can't change your internet speed unless you contact your provider, and your memory is something that you may be able to do, but you have to determine how much memory is in your computer first. Now, I always tell people, 2019, you need to have at least 4 gigs or more. 4 gigs of memory is like the lowest. Anything under 4 gigs of memory, you're going to have problems with your computer. It's not going to run fast enough. So you want to have, the more memory you have, the more desktop space you have. See, a lot of people get confused about hard drive, about memory. You talk to people about computers and they're not very knowledgeable. And a lot of people say, well, am I running out of memory? Or, they're really not sure like how a computer works. So I always explain to them, your hard drive is in your computer and it's a box and it stores all your information. It has the operating system on it. It has all your information and files on it. It's all in a box. And that's one thing. That's storage. Your hard drive is storage and storage only. It keeps the information. It's in one area. Now, there is a chip on the motherboard. I'll get a little into it. I don't want to get too into it. But there is a CMOS BIOS chip on the motherboard, which takes care of certain settings when you turn your computer on. Those are settings for your computer. That's different because that is on a chip on your motherboard, okay? You don't change that, okay? The only thing that controls that is a battery. There's a little battery in there, and every few years you need to change that battery to keep your clock setting. If you notice that your clock never holds the time, then you may have a problem with the battery. You may need to change it. A lot of computers won't run right until you change that battery, until you change that BIOS battery. If it's a computer maybe 4 or 6 years old or something, then you're going to need to change that. But memory and hard drive are two different things. Memory, which I always thought memory was like, people say add more memory, you get more speed. I'm like, okay, all right, you get more speed. So my computer's going to be faster. Oh, yeah, it'll be faster. Now, what do you gain when you add more memory? That's a good question. And I always tell people, well, if you got 4 gigs of memory, and you're running programs in the background, you're not going to be using all that memory you have. There's programs that are stealing your memory because they are on what's called the startup menu. A lot of people don't know about what the startup menu is, but I'm going to go into that in a minute. Now, if you have 16 gigs of memory, like a gaming system, well, obviously your computer's going to be okay with that, startup and that kind of thing because you have a lot of memory. But if you 4 gigs or something like that, you have to be concerned about how much memory you have. So you want to make sure you take the programs off the startup menu because a lot of people have programs on their startup menu and it's running in the background, programs that you're not using right now. You may have used last week or something, and they're still running in the background using your memory. If you're on a Windows 7 computer, what you need to do is you need to go to the run box, type in msconfig, that's msconfig, and hit OK. Hey, Metro, my man, how you doing? After you hit msconfig, you'll be directed to a configuration utility screen on Windows 7. You go to the top. You click on the Startup tab. There'll be boxes with check marks in them. You uncheck all the boxes. You hit Apply, hit OK, restart the computer. Now, when you restart it, you'll realize that your computer's running faster. And why is that? Because some of those programs were running in the background using your memory. Now they're not. Okay, so that's what Windows 7 users can do to free up their memory. Now, Windows 10, what you can do is you can right click a blank spot on a blank space on your toolbar. That's on the bottom where your clock is. A blank space, right click it, click Task Manager. Go on to the next screen. Anything that's running that you're not using, you could you can remove it. You're not deleting it, you're not uninstalling it, you're just preventing it from starting when your computer starts, and that will save your memory. Hey Dinky, how's it going? So I hope these little tips have given everybody some good advice. You know, if your computer, my recommendation is if you're going to keep your computer for a long time or you plan on keeping it, and check into your memory, see how much memory you have. If you don't have a lot, go to a site like crucial.com, run their memory test. They'll tell you how much memory your computer will handle. Memory is not that expensive. Look into upgrading your memory. That's one thing. Now, if you have an SSD hard drive, then your computer is going to run faster because that's a newer type of hard drive, which is flash memory. See, the SSD hard drives are used in new computers and gaming systems because they're much faster than regular SATA hard drives. Regular hard drive will run at 7,200 RPMs and 5,400 RPMs. SSDs will run at like 15. So it's much faster. And there's no moving parts on the SSD hard drive because it's flash memory. That's a big benefit. If you're going to keep your computer for a long time and you have a SATA hard drive, you may want to consider upgrading to an SSD. Check how much they cost and look into that. If you need my help with anything, with any of that, you can let me know. Send a comment and I'll be glad to help you with that. But all the new computers are coming, not all of them, but a lot of them are coming with SSD hard drives and quad-core CPUs, quad-core processor. The processor or the CPU is your brains of your computer. CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. That's the brains of your computer. So if you're going to buy a new computer, I would look into a quad-core processor with an SSD hard drive. Hey, Red Rod, how you doing? And again, if anybody has any questions for me, comments, computer related, definitely let me know. If you have, sorry, I got like disconnected there. But if you have any topics you want me to make a video on, any computer related topics that you may be experiencing with your computer, or you just wanted more information about a certain topic about a computer, let me know. I will make a video on that, or I will talk about that in one of my live streams, and I will help you out with that. So just let me know. But I'm going to end this live stream. I'll probably be on later. I want to thank everybody for being here. Make sure you, like the live stream, share it on social media, or any of your friends, or any people in your group, anybody that you want to help with their computer, share, like, and comment. And I will help you with any question you have, computer related. If I don't have the answer, I will find it, get it from somebody else. Because nobody knows everything about computers, and that's one of the most important things that a computer tech learns. And if I don't know, there's somebody else that knows. Say, not one person knows everything. So just remember that. And have a great day, and I will talk to you all later. Make sure you love each other up. Check each other's channels. There's some great channels in here. And I will see